Welcome to the special meeting of the Joliet Junior College Board of Trustees dated March 5th, 2025. Karen, can you call the roll?
Trustee Broderick.
Present.
Trustee Garcia again.
Present.
Trustee Harris.
Present.
Trustee Lee. Trustee Morales.
Here.
Trustee Stamborski. Trustee Queenie.
Present.
Trustee Bazinski.
Present. And at this time, I want to note that we did have communications with Michelle at the inception of the meeting. She would not be available this evening. She also contacted me again today that her plans had not changed and she would not be here tonight.
Can we please mark that as an excused absence in the vote so that we know that it's
Yes, it's a
excused?
special meeting, so this wouldn't,
No accounts.
yeah, it's noted. Thank you. Item number 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Connolly, would you be able to lead the pledge for us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay. Item number 5, at this point, the chair is going to request a closed session for discussion under 2C1 and 2C11.
So moved.
Second. Trustee Morales.
Yes.
Trustee Garcia again.
Yes.
Trustee Broderick.
Abstain.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Queenie.
Yes.
Trustee Bazinski.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 6, return to public session. At this time, chair is calling for a motion and a second to
So
return.
moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Stamborski.
Aye.
Trustee Morales.
Yes.
Trustee Broderick.
Yes.
Trustee Garcia again.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Queenie.
Yes.
Trustee Bazinski.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 7, approval of release of Lanner Mutual Investigation Report dated November 6, 2024,
So second.
redacted to protect the identities of witnesses.
We already have a motion.
Discussion? I have discussion.
Who had the second? I'm sorry.
I have Ryan as the
Thank you.
second.
Discussion?
Discussion?
I do. What was the cost of this investigation thing done?
The board approved months ago a cost not to exceed $18,000.
What board month did we approve that? Because I don't find anything other than you mentioned it in the August 20th at your chair's report. When did we approve it?
I don't have that information right in front of me.
Because I've gone through all the board books and I haven't seen us approve this at all. That's why I'm asking. I only saw that you mentioned it on 8/20 in your chair comments, and I'm concerned that this was done without the board's approval. Because I don't remember seeing it, and I've gone through all the board books to see it. So I'm gonna ask that we hold off on this until we find if it was approved or not approved.
So wait, let me.
Okay.
So the college, the special services of up to 25,000?
This was below, correct? It's not,
We don't need approval.
It doesn't require the approval.
correct.
Well, you just said we did the approval. He said the
We
approval.
know, we talked about that, we discussed the cost.
So how much is the cost?
It's my, I don't know that I saw the agreement. I think Judy did, but it's my understanding it's not to exceed $18,000.
Not to exceed 18,000?
Correct.
Okay. And then I guess I'm concerned too that on the interviewing process, I think that there was just some current, I think that the previous president should have been interviewed in regards to this thing too. And I think that we need to look at the trustees' fiduciary's duties and responsibilities and their abilities to ask questions, because we have the right, in order to make good decisions, not rubber stamp everything. We need to be able to ask those questions. And apparently, if we vote no or disagree or question things, we shouldn't just get censured. The issue with those censures are those that are OMA violations, and there was no due process, as Pam Fisher, our retreat facilitator, had stated that we needed. And to strip a trustee from their First Amendment rights is totally unacceptable. It's unconstitutional. Freedom of speech As we can see, the student government has freedom of speech by what they can put on their freedom of speech board, which requires, and they're not following the code of conduct, which requires respect and which would interfere with pursuant of the college's goals. We need to be respectful, and that's got to be something that's got to be throughout, not just pinpointed to two trustees that say no or vote no. And there are legal matters that are now in the court, and there's lawsuits due to the fact that there are OMA violations. And it's not the trustees wanting anything other than to correct bad board governance and not respecting their fellow trustees if they differ on certain matters. The accusations of censures are only hearsay and not justified yet, and the board allows hearsay to fault the trustees. This whole situation of the past 2 years has proven to be very dysfunctional board leadership that has occurred here. I think we've already gone through what this report contains from last year. I don't think we need to reinvent it and bring it back to light. I think it's already been worked, and I think we should not have had to go through the expense of paying for it. If the person that's making the statements wanted to do any action, they should have paid for it then. Not the school or the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, please? Okay, so I would just like to say that we just reviewed a investigative report that was filed against a particular board member who has had a vote of no confidence, received 14 censures in February. I'm sorry, 13 and maybe one from before, a total of 14 in this, serving at the Joliet Junior College Board of Trustees. And as trustees, we don't get paid. We're here as volunteers and as professionals to offer governance and good leadership to our president and support our president and in increasing enrollment and services to the college. However, when there are complaints against the board, this is something that has never happened. When our board members go out and then they harass our staff, when they try to overreach and ask them to do work that is beyond their scope, we do not hire them. We only hire the president. And when we are abusive to the president and we abuse his name and his reputation in the community, there are complaints, absolutely. And we have to be fair and give everybody due process, which is why there was an investigative report that was done in order to honor and respect everybody, and so that everyone stays in their lane, and including you, Maureen. Okay, the pervasive pattern of grandiosity, exaggerated sense of self-importance, arrogance, entitlement, and need for admiration, your lack of empathy for the students and staff and fellow board members is completely and utterly unacceptable. And we had to have this investigation so that we can attempt, there's been years of we are trying to attempt board behavior so that we are all respecting each other. Yes, we can ask questions. Nobody here is a rubber stamper. We all ask questions, and we are encouraged to ask questions before the board meeting, to give our administration, to give the president time to review our question, do the research, and then respond to us so that we don't have to make a circus out of this board meeting every day. And it should not be an entertaining board meeting. It should be a meeting of governance with diplomacy and tact for each of our board members. And that is not something that two of our board members have been able to conduct themselves. And I'm sorry, but I just cannot imagine the amount of bitterness and hate that burdens these board behaviors hard, that they have to behave this way and use this platform to showcase that anger and bitterness that they have. I yield my 17 seconds back.
Anyone else have anything to say?
I can go ahead and mention a few things.
Okay.
There are several things that were mentioned. Again, the report that we received outlines some clear violations of just the policies that we have here at JJC that have been established in order to make sure that we do have a process, that we have certain behaviors, and also that exemplify the values that we hold dear here at JJC. So what we're voting on is going to be to release that information to the public so that way you all can see. clear information in violation of those basic policies that we have here. The other thing that I can go ahead and mention, and I don't know why I have to keep providing reminders to my fellow trustees, one specifically, about our process. Whenever there's any HR complaints, we do have a responsibility to anyone that works here at JJC in order to actually have a process set up in order to address those concerns, and then have a formal process in order to document any of those concerns, violations, or any behavior that does not fall within the values that we hold dear here at JJC. So we do have a responsibility to our employees to do that process. Any behavior that belittles anyone here on staff, any of our employees, is not acceptable and shouldn't be happening. There's some questions around the cost. It's unfortunate that we have to spend so much money to do an investigation when the behaviors shouldn't even be happening in the first place. If we actually behave like normal human beings who are kind and respectful to each other. So that is a waste of money that our taxpayers are paying for an investigation that, again, I appreciate the investigation, but those behaviors by the specific trustees mentioned in the investigation shouldn't even happen in the first place. So yeah, that is unfortunate and quite disappointing. Thank you.
Trustee Harris, do you have anything?
Yeah. I want to address the issue with the cost. The cost did come up. I think every individual on this board, staff, or wherever has the right to defend themselves if they feel harassed or misused or whatever it's called. I truly believe that if the behaviors were not provoked or where we have to enter into such a task of seeking legal counsel in order to get them to back off, then we would not be experiencing this. And I truly believe that in the future that we here as board members will keep an eye on our behavior so this doesn't happen again. Because every time we have to defend ourselves and reach out to legal counsel, it costs. But our behavior costs. And it's unnecessary spending, in my opinion. We're spending taxpayer dollars to diffuse characters that are not becoming as an elected official, or behaviors, I should say. So, whatever we vote on tonight, and if we're ashamed, so be it. It is what has happened, and hopefully that it won't happen again. So I yield back.
Trustee Stamborski.
We as a board not only have a policy obligation to investigate these kinds of horrible harassments and behaviors, but we have a moral obligation as people to check this kind of behavior to make sure that this doesn't happen. It is the sanctity of government that we ought to hold ourselves to ensure that we treat others with the dignity and the respect that they ought to have as human beings. And it is in the interest of everyone with a moral authority to have this information released. So that way everybody can see and evaluate the kind of behavior that is unbecoming of an elected official. It is embarrassing, but it needs to be done. It's the right thing to be done. That's what we ought to do. I yield my time.
Trustee Queenie.
I don't have much to say other than depending on how the board does vote, and if these reports do go to the public, I'd like to just put out there that I'd like to reflect the sentiment of Trustee Harris that we as a board are going to acknowledge what has happened, because it has happened. The constant harassment of other trustees on this board from other members is unacceptable, and we must move forward. And that's what having this report and these findings out in public will hopefully help us do, and move forward so that we can be more responsible and more, and I'm just going to say it, we can act more adult. But that's really what I have. So.
Can I have one final thing?
So one of the things that has come up by two different trustees tonight is one says, I don't know why we have to do this report. What good is this? All happened last year. I will say with one sentence, except the behavior continued last week at the last board meeting. The behavior hasn't stopped or changed. Until we change, these reports are still very valuable. We didn't change. The board still behaved terribly at the last board meeting. We couldn't get out of the room without almost having a street fight. We had to have campus security get in between two trustees. Absolutely ridiculous. Why would you even approach somebody? So to say this doesn't matter because it all happened last year, it happened last week. It happened, I've got emails right now from people on the staff who are upset because of trustee behavior. So to say that none of this matters, that we can stop it now, that we've done the report, we're done, we are not done. We still have the behavior that exists. And I yield.
I just wanted to say that just because we have to spend money, spending money is not a bad thing as long as we're investing it in students, investing it in programs. So spending taxpayer money is actually a great thing. We need to invest money. We need to reinvest, and that's what we're doing. But when we're taking that money to spend because trustees think that they are the only ones that govern this board and that they can harass the president and they can harass staff members and that they are bosses to employees of the college, that is wrong. And that's no longer investing, that's wasting. And the trustees and on the report, in full transparency, Trustee Broderick, who's up for re-election, and Trustee Lee.
Okay, that's enough.
Yes, no,
That's
it's,
enough.
you
That's
are.
enough. No,
Okay.
You're violating it.
No, I'm not
No,
violating.
Yes, you are.
No,
Yes,
the
you are.
report is going to be published, so you speak on your own time. You're on my time, okay? That has to be said, and I am not going to be afraid. I'm not going to lead in fear. It is what it is, okay? And you need to stop your behavior because you are a liability to this institution and to the taxpayers. I yield my time.
Do you want to respond?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think it's unfair to say that. For 8 years, there was no problems. But we had we had a current trustee that was the problem child there. That president didn't do anything to that trustee. Thank goodness, didn't bring the embarrassment that it's coming to this board and to the college. We have got to stop the embarrassment. Yes, maybe some trustees have some issues and discussions. It's after the thing. We are allowed to have freedom of speech. We are allowed to talk. But we should never enter into humiliating one another on this board right now, as you just did, Trustee Morales.
Own your behavior, Trustee
You're
Broderick.
done.
Anyone else before we vote? We ready to vote?
If I can add a little something.
Yes.
$15,000 to stem the untold amount of damage to the reputation of Joliet Junior College, to the mental health of some incredible human beings, and to the greater community and taxpayers. $15,000 there's far more that could be spent to maintain and to improve that kind of relationship that we have with the community. It is extremely sad that unfortunately we have to do this. So that's not a lot of money considering what's at stake.
Anyone else? Karen, we're ready to vote?
Trustee Morales?
I am approving approval to release the
Number 7.
Number
on
seven?
your-
Okay, the investigative report, yes. My vote is yes, we should release this, thank you.
Trustee Queenie?
Yes.
Trustee Broderick?
No.
Trustee Garcia again?
Yes.
Trustee Harris?
Yes.
Trustee Stamborski?
Yes.
Trustee Bazinski?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 8, the approval of release of Lantermuchen Executive Summary dated February 17, 2025, redacted to exclude recommended actions.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one comment. I think the timing of both these reports is kind of ironic that it's, November 6th, they had their first investigative report done, but we didn't get their findings until February. And now it's March 6th? And seems like it was a little bit play on time to do this to anyone that was running for election. I leave it at that.
Any other comments?
I'd like to respond. I'd like to make a comment. I think I don't know if I can say this, that everybody had an opportunity to respond. Everybody had an opportunity to respond. And the information was compiled based on the responses. So if we had maybe received the responses earlier, maybe we could have put this out earlier. But anybody that was involved in the interview process had specific amount of time to respond. And I think that the attorneys did give us that. So it's just a coincidence. It's now.
Any other comments?
I agree with Trustee Harris. I think it's unfortunate that it coincidentally it is this way. Once these reports are released, I guess people will know. I don't like to air dirty laundry, but apparently if we're approving them, they're going to see that. My concern here is that we have an excellent leader who has had to undergo a tremendous amount of stress and harassment from board members that are up for re-election. And so having said that, it's unfortunate, but this is how it is right now. I'm embarrassed that some board members tend to tarnish this board and this good name of this college, and we are having an unprecedented amount of turnover in our president. Other people have just chosen to leave because it's this board, due to a board member, maybe two, have been very toxic to this board.
Any other discussion? Karen, we are ready to vote.
Trustee Queenie.
Yes.
Trustee Stamborski.
Yes.
Trustee Broderick.
No.
Trustee Garcia Guillen.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Morales.
Yes.
Trustee Bazinski.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 9, chair calls for a motion and a second for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries.